Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambam, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryanta, Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sagana Vavadu, Sagana Upanattu, Sakapiriam Karvavage, Tejasvina Vadidamastama Vatmishabhage. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham, Malam Sarirasya Cha Vaityakena, Yopa Karotam Pravaram Munina, Patanjali Pranjali Manadosmi. Good morning. So we are moving to a very interesting deviation from the Sankhya philosophy when Patanjali introduced Ishvara Pranidhana. Because the Abhyasa Vairagyam and the discipline to be followed to attain the Chittavritti, when we find it difficult, that we need some help, Patanjali brings in Ishvara into the picture. So we will not dwell deeper into the philosophical part of the concept of Ishvara in this, because we do that in Vedanta and we have a particular understanding of it. But nevertheless, we should understand how Patanjali says this. So to get a better introduction, let's just quickly recap what we have achieved so far. So when we started the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, we said, what is it all about? What is it revealed? Ata Yoga Anusasana. So Patanjali said, this is about Yoga Anusasana. So I'm just giving you a very quick summary so that you get into the refreshed mind. So Anusasanam means that which is continuously being revealed and practiced. It means it is not that Patanjali is inventing this. This is Apurusheya. This is Sastram. This is Vedas. It also means this is something to be followed forever. So this is not, therefore, in yoga as a practice we do and then give it away. Then he said, okay, what is this yoga? Then in the sutra he said, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So yoga is the mastery of the mind, regulating the thoughts. So the Lakshanam has been defined. The Lakshyam is defined. Lakshanam is what is yoga. Lakshyam is what is attained. Chitta Vritti Nirodham is attained. But we approach yoga to be happy in life, right? Therefore, we say to the master, so what happens if I attain this so-called Chitta Vritti Nirodham? In other words, what happened to the yogi? So the next sutra he said, Tada Drishtuhu Swarupe Avasthanam. That yogi, that person who attained the Chitta Vritti Nirodham, remains in his true nature. Now, this is a big blow to our knowledge. So if I am going to be myself, only after attaining yoga, I may not be myself so far. This is the ajnana we have. We think we are what we are, but we are not, because we are molded and modified and projected differently by our chittam. See, if you ask somebody whether you want to be that person or this person or that person, You don't mind enacting the role, but you are always comfortable to be yourself. Therefore, here Patanjali is saying, only by attaining the yoga, you become yourself. So therefore, it becomes an indispensable goal for us because we just now said we want to be ourselves. Therefore, this third sutra reminded us that we are not ourselves. That means that's the reason why we are not happy. See, in one flash, he has given you to remove all your griefs in life. You don't need to go and challenge this life's event and fight with everything else. Just to be yourself. So the sukshma knowledge here is that, therefore, jnanameva kaivalyam. So this is only the jnanam. What jnanam? You know from here, jnanam of myself. You see, if you need to find knowledge about something else, you need effort. But if you need to be knowledge about yourself, do you need an effort? You should not even try. But unfortunately, we do not know ourselves. Therefore, the effort that we take cannot be an effort to attain something new. If it is something new, it is not you. Therefore, the effort that we need to take is to remove that which hides us. Therefore, all that knowledge that you are going to get is not for the knowledge to possess, but the knowledge to remove the avidya. See, that's why when you earn knowledge, you are going to give it away because the knowledge is useful only to remove the avidya. So if you're going to give it away, the knowledge that is hiding you is avidya. The knowledge that is going to remove that which is hiding you is also going to be an avidya. Because when everything that is hiding you is removed, you are Sat Swarupam. So that is what he means here. You will be in that Sat Swarupam. Then our question will come, well, I don't know yoga. I haven't attained it so far. What is my status? He said the next sutra, Vritti Sarupyam Yadaratra. So if you are not getting the yoga, Vritti, that means your mind, your modifications of your mind, Sarubhyam, you will be as your mind. I'll be an angry man, happy man, weeping man, cruel man. I change. I appear to be different. I appear to be nice to somebody, bad to somebody. I'm not myself. What's happening to us? Because without us knowing what is happening to us, we are modified by our vrittis. So now you understand, that's why the mood swing happens. So in this first 4 sutras, he has given us the objective of the yoga shastra, yoga darshana. Then we said, okay, I understand now. Therefore, the culprit is the thoughts that comes in. So we asked the question, what are these vrittis, chitta vrittis? Then he said, vrittayaha, those vrittis are panchatayaha. There are 5 of them, of 2 kinds, klishta, aklishta. So he said, the vrittis are 5 types, klishta and aklishta. You know, klishta is that gives you trouble, A klishta is that which doesn't give you trouble. So here he infused an insight. You don't really need to remove all these vrittis, because you cannot do. But we have to remove that which gives you klishta. He didn't tell you what is klishta, but we learned klishta means that which gives you trouble. Then he explained in the next sutra, pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smriti, or the vrittis. That means any thought that comes out of your right knowledge, your wrong knowledge, your imagination, sleep, memory, because that's how the thought comes in, isn't it? If you take any thought that comes to you, it's because you are having a right knowledge about something, or a wrong knowledge about something, or you imagine, or you remember. Everything is common sense, but the special thing he introduced was nidra. Because nidra, we think we don't have a thought, but potentially brought out a new insight to us. Nidra is also a thought. The thought is about avidya domination, tamasic. So then he started explaining all this in the Sutra 7 to 11. What is pramana? What is viparyaya? So we learned all this knowledge. Then he said, okay, fine. I now understand the prayojanam of yoga. Yoga is about controlling the vrittis. I understood the vrittis. And then we asked the question, okay, master, teach me how is yoga is done. And he said, yoga is done by two things. Abhyasa vairagya abhyam tan nirodhaka. Tan means that chittam, chittavritti is nirodham, controlled by abhyam, the two, abhyasa vairagya. So he introduced the two new terms. I'm just revising it now for you so that you get it back in your mind. Okay. Abhyasa is practice. Vairagyam is dispassion, focused dispassion. Then we ask the question, because we are in a questioning mode. Okay, Guru, what is abhyasam practice? He said, tatra siddhau yatno abhyasa. So this is sutram, yeah? Sutram is always everything scripted, coded. He said, that abhyasam is siddhau yatno, where you can be steady. Why? Because with this arupyam, you are going around this and that. Mind is taking you all over the place. Sit down. Be quiet. Control the mind. Now, all that makes you sit quietly, you learn something in a philosophical way, in a devotional way, in the chapter 6 on Bhagavad Gita, which you're going to learn. But here we say the definition of it. That is abhyasa. We said, yeah, that's fine. Understand. Could you elaborate more? He said, yeah. Satu Dirghakala Nairantarya Satkara Sevito Dadabhumihi. So he gave another bit longer sutra, long term, without interruption, Satkara Sevito, with a good intention, Dadabhumihi, where you are in a strong way, steadfast positioning. So he further defined abhyasa. We went through in a deeper way. Then we asked, what is the focused dispassion, vairagya? He said, drishta anushtivika vishaya vitrashnasya vasikara sajna vairagyam. He defined vairagyam into two types. The apara vairagyam he defined in different stages, leading to vashikara. Vashikara means to attract, to manage, to control the senses. That's apara vairagya. So we've gone through them. Then we ask the question, okay, if I get apara vairagyam, where does it evolve to? Then he said, it evolves to Tat Param, Paravairagyam. So Paravairagyam is the Vairagyam is also a result of the grace of the God, which makes you understand Tat Param Purusha Kyadir Guna Vaitrishna. So you transcend these gunas, which means the evolutes are transcended. That means you are in the Atma Jnana Nishtha. So we've gone through this to understand. Then we said, look, all this is about my mind. So if I do the Abhyasam, Vairagyam, and at different stages I go through it, what happens to my mind? Then he introduced the very concept of this topic, Samadhi. He said, when you do that, with the Aparavairagya accomplishment, your mind becomes tranquil and truth-bearing mind in different stages. Vitarka, Vicharananda, Smritaru. So to give you a word by word, Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Asmita, Rupa, Anugamat, Samprajnata. So this again we saw elaborately in 3 sessions. Vitarka Samadhi, Vichara Samadhi, Ananda Samadhi, Asmita Samadhi. All this is called Jnataka Samadhi. We also saw that this gives you a lot of power because mind is focused. No, Ekagram has come. You are able to sit in a place. You are able to perform dhyana. Mind you, we have not learned these actual tools of doing dhyana. It comes in the chapter 2. But here we are seeing an overview of dhyana. But we also saw this Samprajnana Samadhi is not complete until it leads to Asamprajnana Samadhi, which is an automatic benefit, but we may get deviated. We may get deviated because of what? Either because our motive was not good. What should be our motive? Our motive should be spiritual progress. So if the spiritual progress is not the motive from the day one, so you ask the question, what is the progress after this? The progress after this is Asamprajnata Samadhi, which is Virama Pratyaya Purva Samskara Seshonya. So we have complete freedom from the Pratyaya because of Abhyasa Purva. Well, I didn't ask for this spiritual progress means if I don't come to this with a spiritual pursuit in mind, but I do it only for my personal development, my focused action to attain some siddhi, then I will not go into this samskara sesha state. Samskara sesha means everything is resolved except my samskaram in my mind. So I asked the question, Patanjali, so what happens if I don't have a spiritual goal? I am not a religious person. I never learned a spiritual scriptures, and I just want to be a good person, to be a successful person. I want to achieve what I want to achieve with a focused mind. Can I not do it? Therefore, Patanjali said, of course, you can do it. But if you do that way, you get what's called Bhava Pratyaya Samadhi. Your Samprajnana Samadhi will not be complete, but it will be called Bhava Pratyaya Samadhi. You become a Videha or a Prakriti Layana. So we also spend a session or two that when we have this focused mind and achieve it without a spiritual goal. What is a spiritual goal? Atma Jnana. If you don't have it, you become powerful. You may have a sukshma body. You may have a videhi. You may be a gods in the celestial being, or you can be a prakriti layana, one with the prakriti to come back. So therefore, we also gone through this potential deviational risk, and we came back and said, no, I want to attain spiritual goal. So therefore, what is the right way? Then Patanjali said, yes, therefore you do this samprajnata samadhi as a upaya pratyaya. You have to follow the means, right means. Shraddha, virya, smriti, samadhi, prajna purvaka itaresha. So those who want to follow this right way would take this upayam, shraddha, virya, smriti. Smriti here is the knowledge of that I am in the right way. It's very interesting because, in Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, Arjuna has been given a lot of knowledge by Bhagavan Guru as a guru to him. He was no more just a mitra, Sadguru to him. He teaches him. He comes to the 18th chapter. So then he says, Nashto Moga. My delusion is, you see, he was deluded in the first chapter. What's the first chapter is called? Arjuna Vishada Yogam. Vishada means confusion. Ragam, Shogam, Moham. I'm deluded. So the 18th chapter he says, Nashto Moha. I have got rid of this. Then he says, Smritir Lapta. I gained Smriti. I gained remembrance. See, what you should have said, I got the jnanam. He didn't say that. He said, Smritir Lapta. Very interesting insight. Should he not say, I got jnanam from you? Of course, he say, Tat prasada. Because of your grace, I got this. I got what? Not jnanam. I got remembrance. How can he say that? Is it not all the knowledge given to him by Bhagavan? You should say, I got jnanam. If you say, I got jnanam, he hasn't got jnanam. Jnanam is not something to be attained. Jnanam is to know that you are the Chit Swarupam. It's a very important point. Everything is given to you, as I told you in the beginning, every knowledge that given to you is to use to remove the avidya so that you become the jnana swarupa. See, even in a practical life, you will say, I really understanding this well. I am understanding it well. I understood. I'm complete. When you have a complete knowledge, that knowledge should tell you that this I know before. Until you have, this is I know. This is I know it before. It is not a perfect knowledge. That's why all knowledge you get, even a new knowledge, stay in your mind. But it becomes, by Nishta becomes the truth of it, then it's only a Smriti. So I just wanted to divert because Smriti here, the Smriti should be taken like that. Smriti is revealing your true nature, which is your Shruti. The Shruti is your true nature. You see, Shruti is its true nature. What is Shruti telling you? Aham Brahmasmi. When I'm learning Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, I'm learning the knowledge, Sri Vidya, I'm getting the Vidya. Is not I'm gaining. If I say I got, that's why having jnanam is not make you jnani. Having money doesn't make you rich. I have money, right? Give me that infinite, give me 1 crore of rupees for this cause. I'm sorry, I can't give you because it is in the locker, or I haven't thought through it, or I haven't the mind to give you. I'm not rich. I'm the holder. I'm a weight bearer of richness. I'm not rich. I know everything. I have the Shastra Jnanam. I can repeat Bhagavad Gita backward to forward. I'm not a jnani. I am a knowledge holder. Jnani is the one who has the smriti. What smriti? That I am the Shruti. Aham Brahmasmi. So here, I'm not going there. And here the smriti is, I have practiced yoga. So every janma you comes in, you follow it. So this week we learn that. Then you say, okay, all this is good. I'm going to now start now. I'm going to take the yoga. I'm going to do dhyanam. I'm going to do yogasana. When can I attain it? Because this is our ambition, our desire. Anything you want to say, how soon I can get it? Then he said, yes, you can get it very soon. He didn't give you 1 day, 1 minute, 1 lifetime, infinite lifetimes. But he says, it's all up to you. This is the beauty of Vedanta and Tattva Jnana, because it's all by yourself. You don't depend. If I depend on something, if I say it is subject to something else, then I am stuffed. I'm stuck. It's something else. I have to have the grace on it. No, it's all yourself. What do you mean by myself? Tibra samveghana asannaha. Asannaha, it comes to you very quickly, depending on your tibram. Tibra means how intense I'm applying my shraddha, viryam, smriti, samadhi, prajnana, everything. Samvegam. Samvegam got 2 meanings, I told you. One is a vairagyam, other one is the propensity of doing it. Well, if you tell me I have to do it faster, quicker, intense, how about that? What is the gradation of it? Then he said, yeah, mridu, madhya, adhimatratvat, tatopi visheshana. Okay, he was very compassionate. He said, okay, yeah, fine. What you do, develop it. Mridu, softly. Madhya, medium. Adhimatra, intense. So mridu tiviram, madhya tiviram, adhimatra tiviram. Mridu samvegam, madhya samvegam, adhimatra samvegam. Deep vairagya. If I am not going to have coffee, means that's it. Adhimatra. If I'm going to do japam today, adhimatra. I won't sit for 10 minutes every day without moving body, just praying, meditating. 10 minutes every day, 8 to 8:10, no calls. Adhimatra. Very difficult to do. But he has given you all this. So we saw all that. Then we said, I am still not able to do it. That's where he brought the Ishvara Pranitatva. So we just read it once. These 4 or 5 sutras are very interesting ones. Read them as for the next few classes. Ishvara Pranidhanatva.
Ishvara Pranidhanatva.
Klesha Karma Vipaka Ashehi Aparanishaka Purusha Vishesha Ishvaraha.
क्लेश
कर्म
विपाकैः
आकाशैः
परामृष्टः पुरुष विशेष ईश्वरः
ईश्वरः
We will understand it. Klesha karma vipaka.
क्लेश कर्म विभाग
विपाक
Ashayaihi
आसरैः
आशैः
aparamishraga
अपरामृष्टः
परामृष्टः
purusha vishesha
पुरुषविशेष
ishvaraha.
ईश्वरः
Tatra niradisayam
तत्र निरतिशयं
निरतिशयम्
prajna bijam.
सर्वाज्ञबीजं
Tatra niradisayam sarvajna bijam.
तत्र निरतिशयं सर्वज्ञबीजं
बीजम्
Sa purvesham abhi
स पूर्वेषामपि
सर्वेषामपि
guruhu
गुरुः
गुरु
kalena
कालेन
कालेन
avachetat.
अनवच्छेदात्
Tasya vachaka
तस्य वाचकः
वाचः
pranavaha.
प्रणवः
प्रणवः
So we saw this thing last class, Ishvara Pranidhanatva. So Patanjali brought Ishvara into picture. Patanjali's Yoga Shastram is following the Kapila's Sankhya Mata. In Kapila's Sankhya, he did not see the need for an Ishvara because his goal was very different. He wanted to teach about all creations and he called it Purusha and Prakriti. So he didn't see the need for Ishvara. So Patanjali deviates and say, no, we want Ishvara. He said Ishvara Pranidhatva. So here we saw that in the last class, Pranidhanam is a Vishesha Bhakti. In a Bhakti in which we surrender to a supreme being called Ishvara. And by bringing Ishvara into our yoga abhyasam, having them as a lakshya, by meditating on him or on her, whatever the form which you're going to see, abhidhyana. Abhidhyana means completely surrendering yourself on that Ishvara. Ishvara gives anugraha to us. Anugraha means he takes us as his graham. He comes into us continuously. He bestows grace on us. When he bestows grace on us, we started abhidhyanam to him. So he is holding on to him. Therefore, this is continuous all the time. So become the sarubhyam. Our thought becomes God. We become the thought. That means we become the divine being. So we saw that above. In the last class, we discussed about the importance of surrender. But the question comes to us because so far in these 22 sutras, the concept of God didn't come into the picture. So who is this God? Who is Ishvara? So the Ishvara Lakshanam we know, we need to know. Remember, we are the student of Vedanta. Our faith is built on Vivekam. We understand discriminate knowledge. Then we apply our commitment. Then the Shraddha comes in. Therefore, what is the Ishvara's Lakshanam? So that's why the next sutra comes in. Klesha karma vipaka asayi aparamishraga purusha visesha ishvaraha. Excuse me. So he is giving the Ishvara Lakshanam. Let's just look at the one particular phrase. Purusha Visheshaha Ishvaraha. So Ishvaraha, that Ishvara that we're talking about, is Purusha Visheshaha. Okay, we have a lot of ideas about Ishvara. We say Ishvara is Parameshwara, Shiva. No, I am a Vaishnava. Ishvara is Narayana. No, I am a Shakta. Ishvara is Amba, Ganesha, Muruga, Jesus, Allah, Krishna, Muruga. So we have this. Let's park all those things. We do not know all this right now. From the Patanjali's point of view, coming from Sankhya, Purusha and Prakriti, the two makes everything else. We were assuming that, not even assuming, we are learning that the Prakriti is insentient, Anadi, independent, but insentient, inert. Everything is made out of Prakriti. The Purusha is the conscious principle. Therefore, the whole purpose of yoga is to separate Kaivalyam. Therefore, when I reach the Samadhi, when I become myself, I am going to be the Purusha. That's what I was thinking. Is it not? Therefore, if Patanjali has to show us who is Ishvara, he has no choice but to show in Prakriti or in Purusha. Okay, that is a boundary of Sankhya Matam, and Yoga Sankhya Matam has to be within that. Even though Patanjali has brought a new word, Ishvara, he can't go elsewhere, bounded. Therefore, he says, yeah, but let me say, he is Purusha Vishesha. Okay. He is not escaping Kapila, but he is slightly qualifying it by saying, yes, I'm going to show Ishvara as a Purusha, but as a Purusha Vishesha. Well, we are the students of Vedanta. Boundless. Nothing can bind. My definition of Ishvara has to be beyond that. But let's park all those things now. Here we just go follow what Patanjali is saying. Purusha Vishesha. Then I ask the question, I am expecting to be a Purusha, realizing myself. Now Ishvara is a Purusha Vishesha. Therefore, dear sir, are you going to show Ishvara something different from me? Vishesha means different. Patanjali says, yes. He nods his head. It's not in the sutra, but this is what you should imagine. Yes, I'm going to tell you about Ishvara by showing what he is not, but you. So therefore, when you understand the sutra, you also understand who you are. Therefore, when you are not that, that is Purusha Vishesha. Now, if you understand this context, then we can go back to the previous words. Klesha, karma, vipaka, ashekhi, aparamishraha. Paramishraha means limited. Aparamishraha means not limited, untouched. That word untouched. Paramishraha means is mixed with, touched with klesha, touched with karma, touched with vibhaka, touched with ashaya. Aparamishra means untouched by klesha, untouched by karma, untouched by vibhaka, untouched by ashaya. So he is defining Ishvara to be someone who is untouched by these four things. We'll see what these four things are. But now we know that we as a Purusha, here don't take Purusha means the male part of it. No, Purusha is everything, every being, every life, the sentient part. So therefore we need to understand what is each one of them. Klesha. Klesha means affliction. Klesha is what causes the thought to be klishtaha or aklishtaha. We saw that before. Klesha is that which causes grief. So klesha aparamishtaha means that one who does not have any affliction is Ishvara. But I have affliction. I have thoughts. So I'm not Ishvara. Okay. But what is this klesha? So I touched upon it gently when I talked about it. Klishta. There's going to be a sutra in second chapter. We will see later in detail, but I'll give you just a glimpse of it. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, klesha. So it's called pancha klesha. Remember this, when we go to the second chapter, it will be much easier. So we are all afflicted by 5 different kleshas. First one is called avidya. Avidya means what? Avidya means not ignorant alone. It is not having the right knowledge. What is the right knowledge? We are going to learn all this in detail, but right now, simply understand. Not knowing what is nitya, what is anitya. Lack of nitya vastu vivekam. Not knowing the truth, but also having a viparita jnana, thinking the false as a truth. That I am this person. It's an avidya. Is avidya bad? Avidya is not bad. The effect of avidya is bad. Ambal is called Vidya Rubini. Lalita Shastram say Vidya Rubini, Vidyaya Namah, Avidyaya Namah. Ambal is also avidya. How can Ambal be bad? Everything we study is avidya. Because if we define Vidya is about revealing your true self. If you're studying space science or computer science, medical science, that's not about revealing myself, but is serving others, making my livelihood. It is a vidya in this world. It's important. But in the spiritual context, it's also a vidya. So vidya is not bad. A better example will make it clear to you. See, when fire will hurt you. Imagine if I am thrown into the fire, I am burned. When I am in fire, it hurts me. So therefore, when I am in avidya, I should be hurt. Yes, I am hurt, but I do not know it. Take sleep, deep sleep. Deep sleep is the perfect state of avidya. You are in deep sleep. You are blissful. Therefore, the effect of avidya is what causes klishta. Therefore, even if you are in avidya, because even a jnani will sleep. When you are in an embodied state, he is sleeping, he is in avidya. Jnani is not all the time in vidya. Jnana swarupam. No harm in being avidya. But the avidya doesn't affect you. Why it is affecting you? Because you have asmita. You have taken the effect of avidya. You identify yourself with your body. I am this person. Understand? So when you have this understanding, then I become a personality. So I look this 5'8" or whatever, you look fairer, beautiful, handsome. I don't like you. I like you. So the avidya's effect becomes asmita. Asmita is the technical term. Here it is the ego, the ahankaram. When you are able to stay in the same condition of ego as a samadhi, you get asmita samadhi, right? You saw that one before. So the asmita leads to raga. Raga is color, variety. That makes you feel happy. When become ragam, it becomes not conducive to your thinking. It's not in your same harmony. Dvesham, you don't like it. So this raga dvesham comes in. When this comes in, your life is finished. But this raga dvesham is what is creating klishta. In everything you see, even the loving person you have ragam, you also have dvesham. It's a very difficult statement to state, but it is a truth. You cannot love anybody perfectly, 100%, but yourself. No way you can develop absolute love to anybody. Mother, no. There is a little of ragadvesha will come. Even God. Yes. Only when the God becomes in you. This is why the most profound form of relationship besides mother and the child is husband and wife. Because they always like to be one, bodily, mentally, spiritually. That pursuit of oneness, of course, the byproduct is the children and prodigy. But the spiritual process is to be loved 100% means there is imperfection everywhere. You become one. So in spiritually, it's a first lesson. Love yourself, tie yourself. When you love yourself, you're able to love. So therefore the approach is you don't see differences. Advaita Anubhuti. But we don't have, because of avidya, we see plurality, dvaitam, in any form of dvaitam. What happened as a result of it? As a result of it, you always want to have an embodiment to enjoy. You have a body. Like I was giving an example of how Narendra was asking when he was young that I want to be like a honey bee suckling the honey, but enjoying it, not dropping into the honey and become one with this. Because you want to maintain this enjoyment. That means you want to maintain your subjectivity as a subject. You don't want to touch the subject because you want to have objects to enjoy. Even God wants to enjoy the God. When Krishna was leaving, so they could not take him. They could not feel that Krishna will go. That's why Radha is a, there's no Radha in existence in the Puranas. Radha is the longing heart of the devotee in which the Paramatma is always there. Why this? The bhavam of Radha is supreme bhakti, because Radhas don't need Krishna physically. In fact, they don't need him because it gives them the Radhes. That's why everybody is called Radhe, because you can long, and the longing becomes love because they see them inside. But when we have ajnanam, even if we have this kind of Vishesha Jnanam, that I want to be a devotee praying to God outside me, you need embodiment. The embodiment, therefore, needs to be held. What is your embodiment now? Is the body. I don't have this bhakti, I don't have this spiritual knowledge. I want to hold on to my body. This is the apex of avidya, called abhinivesha. The stubborn holding into the fear of losing oneself. You know, so when I am in the deathbed and I know my body is aching, I can't drink, I can't see, I can't hear, and somebody come and ask me, don't you want to just go? No. Ask anybody who is the deathbed. 90% of them will say, 99% say, no, I want to stay. No, even a little ant, if you try to kill it, it'll say, no, it'll hide. Everybody wants to keep their body. Because why? They want to enjoy the raga dvesha. Why? Because they think asmita, I am. Why? Because of avidya. So if I become my papam latek make me to be a buffalo in next janma, and you are in the class and you are, you followed yoga, you become a jnani, you come in the next janma, you see me as a buffalo, and you say, Raja, you are a buffalo, let me liberate you. I'll kill you. You get out of it. I will try to hit you. No, I want this body. Because every body that we take, the Prakriti gives you the natural tendencies, samskaras in you, to behave like a buffalo. So this is called abhinivesha. So these 5 kleshas I have, you have, everybody have. Ishvara doesn't have this. That's the first one. Second one is karma. Because I have this klesha, pancha klesha, I do actions. Actions is important. Without action, you don't get anything. Bhagavan says, act, get up, awake, arise, and do what you need to do. So action is something we need to do. Fine. The question is this action well-intended or ill-intended? Kushala or akushala? Kushala means saukaryam, well-intended. Good action. Virtuous or not virtuous. Papam or punyam. Any karma we do, action that bind. So yoga is an action, upasana is an action, dhyana is an action, prayer is an action, kayena vacha, that you do by mind or it's an action. But the action has to be well intended. In the second chapter, Bhagavan says, yoga karmasu kaushalam. It's the most beautiful phrase, often quoted, brings out the whole karma yoga into that phrase. Yoga is doing action, kaushalam, well intended, well defined. Therefore, you tell buddhi yukto, by using your buddhi, by I told you all this, jahadi, get rid of it. Iha, in this life, get rid of it. Ube Sukrita. Ube means both. What both? Sukrita, dushkrite. Whatever going to give you happiness, whatever going to give you sadness. He says both, get rid of it. All the action that is making you happy, making you sad, get rid of it. That is yoga, that is action. Action is, I thought action is to make me happy, not to make me sad. No, that is action. But when you do action as a yoga, sukriti, dushkriti, both you give up. Therefore, yoga, that means if you want to do yoga, you just means try, endeavor, effort. Do what? Do my yoga as karmasu kaushalam. So if somebody wants to ask you definition of yoga, you say karmasu kaushalam. What I do, a well-intended action, without any sukha dukkha benefits for me, no matter what comes in. But if it comes to me, if I'm doing it for my own hand, that becomes that binding. Therefore, if you do action that bind, that becomes one of the impediment to divine Ishvara. So for Ishvara has no karma that binds him. So if God is creating the world, we know in Vedanta, he doesn't create anything. But if you take this approach, God creates the world, it's a creation, that action, that kriya, just does not bind him. Therefore, if he creates a cyclone or thunder and kills many living beings, he's not doing a papa. It's well intended. Kaushala. But for Purusha, no. For us, we do action, we create, accumulate papam and punyam. That's what the meaning of this. Then the next word is vipakam. Paga means cooking. One who cooks. Vipaka means cooking out. Cooking out from where? Klesha, affliction, created karma. Karma creates actions. Actions creates results. That fusion of the results is called vipakam. So what results you will get from punya and papa? Sukham and dukkam. So the fusions of actions are sukham and dukkam. Now, if I do actions as a purusha, jiva, it creates karma. Karma creates pavam punyam. Pavam punyam creates happiness and grief. But to enjoy the happiness and grief, what do I need? What do I need? To enjoy anything, it should come to mind. I need a body. What is body? Remember the Tatsubodha? Bhoga ayadanam. Body is bhoga ayadanam. We need a body. Therefore, what happens when you have vipakam, to experience happiness and grief, we will be subjected to birth. We will have a body. Have you wanted a body of a Arnold Schwarzenegger or body of a Krishna? Or no, we get a body to suffer or to enjoy what we carry in our account. When you come to this world, your luggage is a set of credit and debits. So therefore, the conditions of the birth, jati, matam, country, richness, poverty, the DNA, everything is conditioned for the birth. Okay. Then will I live for forever, full life? No, because your ticket is valid only up to your debit credits are nullified. So if my debits and credits are finished for this body, I'm gone. So the age of my body is not how many calendar sheets I remove it. No. So if I still have my papam, punyam to enjoy. They're given in a little doses for me. I live 90, 100. I can't even see, I can't even drink, I can't even walk. But I suffer because my karmas are still there. Or I have done everything. 25, glorious life, gone. We call it akala marnam. No, his embodiment is finished. So therefore, I am time limited, space limited. This is vipakam. God is nothing like this. Now, ashayahi. I told you before. Ashayahi is karmashaya. Remember karmashaya, I talked about it. Ashayam means a cluster, accumulation, domain, samskara. When you do karma, what happened? Karmashaya. Vipakashaya. All these pava punyas which are not expended stays in my samskara. Therefore, this klesham, karmam, vipakam, ashayam, all these are there for me. For the Ishvara, it is not there. He is unsmeared. Apara Mushtaka. He is called the Purusha Vishesha, Purushottama, special Purusha. That's what the Lakshanam of Purusha. So we have some more doubts to be clarifying on this. We'll do that in the next class. So let's do the Shanti Pada. Om Ashadoma Shadgamaya
Satoma Sadgamaya
Sagamaya.
Ashoma Jyotirgamaya
Soma Jyotirgamaya
Yoma Amritam Gamaya Shanti Shanti
Shanti.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Raj.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raj.
Thank you, Balaji.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.